Something I've been thinking about a lot recently is how we view nature. We kind of view nature as this like perfect, I guess, godlike, right? In many ways, nature, God, or depending on your belief system, kind of the same thing. But even if you don't believe in a God, there's a view that like evolution works exactly the way it's supposed to work. Like evolution, the laws of nature, be that what it may, survival of the fittest, the naturally occurring things that happen in nature. We have this, most of us have this working assumption that that is the standard. Like that's what it should be. Things should go along with nature because nature gets it right. Evolution happens in such a way in which you're perfectly suited for your environment. The things that you evolve to develop are for a reason that allows you to expand your species and whatever it might be. But what if that's not true? Or at least what if it's not true anymore? What if this idea that nature always gets it right is no longer the case? And at worst, you could say like our human consciousness is nature's way of like auditing itself and checking to see if it gets it right. Now, it's not to say like humans are perfect and what humans do or want to do goes above nature. Because in some ways it's ancestral, like we are kind of part of nature. But you take the idea of like survival of the fittest, like this whole, I don't really love the phrase, but might makes right and power dynamics that are at play. There's a really strong perspective that says like, yeah, human history has been tough. There's been some ugly things we've done. We've exploited people, we've abused people. Those in power have taken advantage of that power and used it for their own gain. And as much as that irks us, as much as that bothers us, there's a view of like, but that's kind of the natural way, right? Like survival of the fittest, the laws of the jungle. The strongest survive, the strongest should dominate, right? Alpha male in a wolf pack, all these different things that make it seem like it's kind of okay though. Or maybe not okay, but it's just the way it is. But what if it's not? What if it's not anymore? What if our consciousness allowed us to recognize that that's not the best way? And as blasphemous or as wrong or as crazy or as unnatural as it sounds, it's okay that we're trying to buck against traditional nature as we've known it. Maybe nature, again, is learning and evolving in what it's seeking out. And that power dynamic that we historically valued so much, maybe it's antiquated. Maybe the right thing for us to do is to evolve beyond that and no longer rely on those kind of old principles. It's a strange thing because nature has gotten many things right, it would seem. But I think anytime we presume that something is inherently right, there's a lot of danger in that. And I'm not sure why nature would be above that. I'm not sure why we as humans, with the power of consciousness, can't look at it and say, you know what, maybe there are things that should be different. Now, again, I'm not trying to suggest we necessarily know better than nature. There's strong arguments to be made that we're destroying the environment and things we do are detrimental to ourselves, to other animals, to other species, to the planet. I get all that. But even in that, there's that thread of like, well, if we can, we do it. That's natural. Like if we have the ability to do those things. I saw a video recently where somebody said like, the only question really to ask of what we can do as humans is like, who's going to stop me? If nature isn't going to stop us, then it's that same power dynamic. If we're able to do it, then we're going to do it to our own benefit. But again, maybe that's something that needs to change. Maybe we need to take a hard look at some of those things and make a deliberate, conscious decision to say, I think it should be different. I think we should move past those power dynamics and that sense of who's ever the strongest makes the decisions at all costs. Even the idea of in nature, there's a brutality to it. And there's again, it's not an illogical, but there's this view that's like the world's a brutal place. And sometimes brutal stuff happens and suffering happens. Maybe historically, but maybe there's an opportunity to be better. And maybe we've just been limiting ourselves by this idea that we're constrained by that. Maybe it doesn't have to be so brutal. Maybe it does. Maybe it does. I'm not suggesting it definitely doesn't. But I just think we should ask the question. We shouldn't hold nature to the standard that it can never be questioned. That it just has to be assumed it's right. Because there's a lot of evidence that suggests maybe it's not. When we look at some of the ugly, disgusting, horrible things we do, maybe our human nature isn't something we should be proud of, isn't something that we should assume is perfect, isn't something that we think should be beyond questioning. Maybe that's exactly what we need to do.